What's going on, everybody? I'm Nando. Let's talk about Cull Obsidian, aka the Black Dwarf from the Black Order. If you haven't seen either of the other two videos that I've made so far, or the other two that are going to come after this, the Black Order is Thanos' henchman team that was created during the Infinity comic. I think used to have it on the desk and now it's gone, whatever. I'm going to talk about his comic history and what he's doing in Marvel Snap. I said this when I did my Supergiant because they were originally going to be one video. This is going to be a quick one. There's not that much going on with Cull Obsidian / Black Dwarf. I will say he has two names. He's the only one like that in the group. It's because originally his name was Black Dwarf, and the team was made of 5 characters that you're probably familiar with: Ebony Maw, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight. Those 3 were in the movie. Then you had Black Dwarf, this guy, and then another character called Supergiant. So Black Dwarf and Supergiant, both named after not just specific stars, but like kinds of stars. And for whatever reason, Supergiant did not make it into the MCU version of the Black Order, which makes sense because I think if I had to cut one, it would be her, just because her power is redundant and she's not a more interesting design or anything than Ebony Maw, and she has the least history because Supergiant is the one who dies in the first run that she's a part of. Other people point to the fact that Nebula is also blue, and then you got Proxima Midnight, who's not quite blue, but like kind of, and it's like they all look kind of similar. It would, you know, you want your characters to look different, especially if you want them to be more visually distinct and they're on the same battlefield fighting each other. And if you're gonna put 2 Nebulas in the movie, like, you want to simplify it. So I think that makes sense. But when you knock Supergiant off this team, Black Dwarf's name becomes weird, because he is the only character now named for a type of star. It does not necessarily read as a thing for a star. And I've seen people point out maybe why they changed this is because Avengers Infinity War was the introduction of a character named Eitri, played by Peter Dinklage. Eitri is one of the dwarves on Nidavellir who created Thor's hammer and the Infinity Gauntlet and then Stormbreaker later. And people thought, well, maybe he just doesn't want, you know, this character to be named that. I doubt that's fully it. I do think the star thing, just his name doesn't seem like the other ones, right? Ebony Maw, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Black Dwarf. Like, it's just not, it doesn't flow. And Cull Obsidian fits way better with what those guys are. Also worth noting, Cull Obsidian used to be the name of the group. They were the Black Order, aka the Cull Obsidian. Now they made this guy Cull Obsidian, and they just went, we're fully the Black Order in the movies. And the card now is called Cull Obsidian, so this is where they're going from here. And I do think it's fine, especially when it's only those 4. Black Dwarf is a pretty weird name, doesn't fit in. And later, Black Swan would get introduced to this group. And again, we're into 2 similar name category where you got Black Dwarf and Black Swan. So either way, this guy's a big monster guy. We don't really know where he's from. We don't have too much information about any member of the Black Order, where they're from. It seems like Thanos at some point just recruited these really evil, tough mercenary types and turned them into the Black Order. They're all kind of friends, especially because one of the things we learn in the Cull Obsidian solo book, and I'm just going to call it Cull Obsidian from now on. I'm giving up. One of the things we learned in the Cull Obsidian solo book that is from his point of view, which I believe is the Black Order issue 3, is that he was in love with Proxima Midnight, but so was Corvus Glaive, and he's so honorable, and Corvus Glaive is the leader. So Cull Obsidian was immediately like, oh yeah, you dude, I'm not interested in that. So I guess they have enough history as a team that whole thing happened, but again, it doesn't seem like it was a humongous deal. It seemed like he folded immediately. He also has a thing for Black Swan, the member of the team who joins after Infinity, so, you know, they've never really done anything with that, but that could maybe happen. I'd say Cull Obsidian is a very specific type of character, right? Because here's what the Black Order is. You know, slimy little guy with a big old sword, and then, you know, his wife with an even bigger sword, your manipulative dude in the corner whose hands are always like this, that's Ebony Maw, and then this other guy who's like a big, strong, scary guy, but he reads, he knows poetry, he's smart, he's got feelings, he's sensitive. That's what we're doing with Cull Obsidian. He's not like the team strategist or something, but he does have like an appreciation for culture that you probably wouldn't expect based on his looks. History-wise, we'd say he had an interesting journey. So Thanos goes to Earth and he's like, everybody, you're gonna go fight the individual guys who have Infinity Stones now, which ends up being the Illuminati. And it doesn't seem like Thanos knows who any of these people are, which is something that I guess is true of the MCU version of Thanos, because in the comics, Thanos sends like Supergiant to a school, and it turns out to be the X-Men Xavier Institute. So like, that is not just a school, that is a team of superhuman children with a jet. Cull Obsidian gets the worst version of this because he is told to go to Wakanda, Whereas Wakanda is for, oh, it's just some African nation, I don't know, just like any other nation on Earth, so we'll just go there, steamroll them, stake the stone, and leave. That doesn't work. He gets beaten, does not get the stone, forced to retreat, punched by T'Challa, very famous panel that gets recreated in the MCU. So he goes home, and he's like, Thanos, I'm sorry we didn't do what you wanted us to do, because it turns out they were a technological superpower that it doesn't seem like even the people on Earth fully understand what's going on with these guys. And Thanos is like, okay, cool, you're fired. And Cull Obsidian is very sad because he's very sensitive, and he, leaves. Then, when things are really kicking off, Cull Obsidian comes back and he's like, hey, Thanos, I can help you, I'll help. And Thanos is like, listen, I'm not thrilled with you, but at this point we do have an opening in guarding the space station. So can you guard the space station for me? Cull Obsidian's like, yeah, I can do that. That's gonna be great. That happens to be where all the super guys from space show up and they kill him. It's a collection of Ronan the Accuser, the Super Skrull, and the Gladiator. So 3 of the strongest Marvel cosmic characters beat this guy up, and then Ronan the Accuser uses the ultimate weapon to smash his head. Cull Obsidian's dead. Cull Obsidian's brought back to life with the rest of the Black Order a little bit later in the No Surrender event, where the Grand Master and the Challenger play a game, and they have the Black Order versus the Lethal Legion fighting on Earth, and it's very like Grand Master. So it's a very simple Grand Master story where like everybody has to fight to get a thing. And after that, the Black Order, which at this point consists of Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Cull Obsidian / Black Dwarf, and Black Swan, they just go do their own thing. They work for Hela for a little bit, they work for the Collector for a little bit, and they just work for themselves because they're not super happy being space mercenaries for the supervillain, so they want to find their purpose. And at the end, as far as I know right now, because they have not been in a, I'm going to say this, and this is immediately going to be wrong, but as far as I can remember, they haven't done anything incredibly significant since the Star comic, where they quit looking for Infinity Stones. So I don't know where this guy currently is. I would say you could read Cull Obsidian as a genius bruiser type, according to TV tropes. Another good example of that, Bane, sometimes, where he is not just a master tactician, but a big, strong, scary guy. Where it's like, oh, he's big and strong, but also he knows poems. This is the worst of both worlds. And because of that, I think the Cull Obsidian card is the most straightforward out of everybody on the Black Order. He is currently a 4 cost, 10 power, and his card reads, you can only play this card where you have a 1 cost card. I think we all kind of understand what that is, right? You can only play Cull Obsidian where there is already an Infinity Stone. He goes after Infinity Stones. He is very much one of Thanos' guys who he sends to get Infinity Stones. Now, originally, I believe the text on this card read that you needed an Infinity Stone in that spot. I think it's a good idea to change that just because you don't want to fully lock out people who don't want to play this card with Thanos. That being said, I think he'll slot very conveniently into most Thanos decks. I think a 4/10 is pretty good, especially with Zabu, where you can turn that into a 3/10. That's great. Like other 4/10s are like Sentry, but he also creates a -10, so it's like Sentry, but without that downside. I think he's a good card, and I think his power is a very straightforward representation of what this character should be doing in a comic. So one more thing that has to do with Cull Obsidian. There's this trend I've noticed. I don't know if this is specific to this season, and I could see it being just because there's not a lot of art of these guys. These cards, every member of the Black Order, I believe, save for Black Swan, who launched with 2 variants, comes with 1 variant. Now that variant is a good variant. It's the Inyuk Lee variant, which I love all of them, but those are only in Spotlight caches. So if you get Cull Obsidian and you do not want to spend extra Spotlight caches to open that variant, there is no variant for that card in the game. I have nothing against the standard artwork on the Marvel Snap cards, but I do kind of not like it. Like, I like to have a deck where everybody has a variant, even if it's like not my favorite variant, even if it's a pixel variant. I don't know, maybe it's something about how the game kind of incentivizes you to want more variants. It makes the variants look cooler, and even if the variants aren't that much cooler than the base card, it still makes the idea of having a variant cooler. Either way, like I'm guessing when Hope Summers launches or when Cannonball launches, characters that are way more significant, or like Baron Zemo is apparently going to be the season pass card in 2 seasons. So I hope when he launches, he has a couple of variants. The same goes for cards like Red Hulk, just because like I think the variants are really fun, and I like the opportunity to buy a variant with gold immediately after getting that card, just so I've got something that's a little different, a little bit of style, something I can feel kind of attached to. Even just a pixel or like a Dan Hip. I think it would be great if those launched with these cards so that the variants exist, because I'm sure licensing them is tricky, and I'm sure making them 3D is complicated, but there is plenty of art of these characters. Cull Obsidian, there is lots and lots of Cull Obsidian art. Even like when Akihiro Dakin, when he launched, there were like 2 variants, and it's like, this guy's been in a lot of comics. Can we put some of the variants out here now? Do you guys need like suggestions? Like, there's a lot of looks that this guy has had, especially recently. That would be cool cards. Not telling Second Dinner how to do their job, but as a comic fan, that is something I get excited about, is nice variants. And I wish when a card like this dropped, it had at least 2 so that you could get one from the store when they came out. That's all I'm saying. I hope that when a character I really like shows up, like Pixie, they have a couple of variants. Besides that, I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I'm enjoying making them. I'm gonna make a bunch more as these cards come out. It might be 1 video per week talking about that character. I'm in a great spot now because these guys, Black Order, are all relatively simple. It's gonna get way more complicated when we do the cards like the Thunderbolts or the Avengers vs. X-Men cards, who have these really, really long histories. Some of them are more complicated. Like just describing all the stories that Hope Summers is attached to, and that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not gonna like read you her Wikipedia page, but like those guys have so much more history than these Black Order characters. So that'll be something fun to look forward to. If you enjoyed these videos, if you're on Nebula, like the channel. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Watch my Nando V Movies videos on my other channel. And listen to my podcast. I have a podcast with 2 friends called Mostly Nitpicking, where each week we pick a movie and we just really dive into it. Like we just did the Argyle movie. That podcast is much longer than they usually are, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about in that movie. And I'm sure, you know, when Madam Web comes out and we'll have something for that, that'll be fun. So thank you guys all for watching. I'll see you around.